Today is July 11th, 2015. Joining us on the porch are the guests of Fulton FYI.
The best place for family. What are you waiting for? Where friendships run deeper. Come join us on the porch. So glad you're on the
porch. This radio show is now in session. I wanted to say that because I've never talked from a podium like this before, so I'm pretty pumped. So yeah, whenever I'm talking on the radio show, I just have a mic stand and I'm in my kitchen. But this is cool because I'm at City Hall. And the only reason we're here is because I got picked up last night by the police department. So since I was already being held against my will, we figured we'd just record while we were here. They brought me my suit to represent myself, and I walked right down here to have a show. Anyway, here I am, hanging out with the radio show. So the reason we're really here is because we have really good friends in really good places, and we were able to get set up to have a show and record live in the City Hall in Fulton, which is really exciting because I grew up in Fulton and I'm really invested, and we have a mess of guests that are going to be on the show that are also really invested in the town. Like these three girls that I found outside, they all had matching t-shirts that say Tree Hugger on them, and I said, I can identify. Why don't you come be on our radio show? And I said, what exactly are you doing out here? And they tried to feed me this line that they were protesting, they were having a sit-in, and I said, why? And they said, well, because we really want to be on your radio show. So I said, all right, you don't have to protest in front of City Hall. You can just come in. Just tell them you know me. So now these girls know me, and they've got an awesome presentation, just like all of our other guests. But we'll get to them later. So usually our radio show, we have a music guest and what we call our community guest, so somebody that's doing something in the community. This is a little bit of a different setup for our show because we have a lot of people that are doing a lot of things in the community that we wanted to have represented at today's show. And so we were working with FYI and setting that up. So it's set up more a little bit like a TED Talks kind of format, which is really cool because then people can give you all that they have, and they don't have to worry about me asking questions and interrupting. So that's really nice. But for now, Gina Holsapple, you're on the porch.
We grow mighty, we grow strong. It's the breaks in our armor that help us along. It's the open door, it's the arm on our shoulder. It's a quiet reflection when we feel much older. We are mighty, we are strong. There's a voice in the thunder that calls us along. We are one, we are love. There's never been answers that easily come. There's never been castles that can't come undone. There's never been hearts that can't be broken. There's never been love that stays unspoken. We are mighty, we are strong. There's a voice in the thunder that calls us along. We are love, we are one. And this storm will pass, 'cause that's what they do. And all that will be here is hearts that are true. And all of this wreckage left in its wake. There's so much to love here, so many to thank. We are mighty, we are strong. There's a voice in the thunder that calls us along. We are love, we are one, we are love, we are love. fun.
Today's show of On the Porch Radio Hour is brought to you by none other than Carmel Monson. Carmel Monson is a financial contributor to the radio show, and not many people know his name, which is kind of a shame because he's done some pretty awesome things in his time. You see, Carmel Monson is a blind race car driver, number 54. And we learned about him quite a few years ago, and so we contacted him. My son was a big fan of Carmel's, and we said, hey, can we set up a time for you to, maybe do a photo op with our son, because he really looks up to you. You're a great role model of his. And I was on the phone with him, and Carmel said, oh my gosh, is your son blind? I said, no, he's perfectly 20/20. He just thinks you're really cool. And this was neat for Carmel. So he came, and at the time gave Max a little matching jacket. Had the number 54 on it, black jacket. I'll never forget. Had light blue numbers on it, and it was nice because Carmel actually had sewn the numbers on himself for Max, and it was so they were a little off, which gave it that homemade look. And he tried to embroider his name on the front, but that was a little off too. So everybody thought Max's name was Zaw because it was upside down. But Carmel's been really great for the radio show. He's contributed a lot, and I decided that we would talk about Carmel today because he's also started his own foundation, the Blind Drivers Foundation. Because again, not many folks know that there's a whole organization of blind race car drivers that are trying to get started. They don't do things like join the figure eight or those kinds of things. But at Demolition Derby, they're incredible. There's just something about it. There's nothing better than watching blind race car drivers drive into each other. But someday we'll convince Carmel to be on the show. But until then, he'll just keep contributing money so that we can have shows like this. So the next time you're thinking, tax season's coming to an end and I need to donate some money, think of Carmel and think of all the race cars that he's gone through. And maybe give him a hand. Carmel Monson, everybody. A lifelong resident of Fulton, Tim Carroll has been interested in lake restoration and maintenance ever since he had his first job here at Lake Neonawanna. He has a background in wetland ecology and is currently working with Lake Neonawanna and its restoration. I'd like to welcome Tim Carroll to the porch.
Thank you very much, Matt. As Matt said, my background is in biology and wetland ecology. I spent the last 30 years working in a nuclear power plant, making nuclear power safe for you. How I got there from ecology to nuclear power is a story for another show. So if you want me back, let me know, Matt.
Sure do.
I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the lake itself, the lake ecology. So if I wax a little pedantic, forgive me. I did do a little teaching when I was in grad school. And then a little bit about lake restoration, and particularly Lake Neonawanna, and maybe what the future holds. The lake itself, Lake Neonawanna, is about a 750-acre lake, depending on what research you look at, in the shallow basin, Old Glacial Lake Iroquois. The maximum depth is probably 10 to 12 feet right now, although it's been recorded to be up to 13 feet in the past. It's obviously a very shallow lake with a constant temperature. There are 4 inputs to the lake: Somerville Creek, Sheldon Creek, Lay Creek, and what's kind of referred to as Granby Creek in some of the studies you look at. And the one outlet that everybody knows, Tannery Creek, that drains it to the river. There's also inputs from spring-fed springs underneath the lake, although nobody's been able to really identify exactly where those springs are to this point. The fact that the Fulton Woolen Mill up until the 50s withdrew about 2 million gallons a day from the lake indicates that there are probably some other alternate sources of input to the lake along with those springs. So there is good evidence that the springs are there. The lake itself, being a shallow lake with pretty much a constant temperature, is what's known as hypereutrophic. Now, when I was studying, it was called cultural eutrophication. Scientists prefer to call it hypereutrophic now. Now, imagine that your kid is a lake, and you give him a bowl of Fruit Loops and a couple of Hershey's bars and send him over to the neighbor's house. That kid's kind of running all over the place. That's what happened with Lake Nianawana. As a very shallow lake, it wants to become a wetland. It's very high in nutrients. If you buy your fertilizer at the store, you see the NPK on there, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium. These nutrients are what feeds the lake. It causes excessive algae, excessive plants, that sort of thing. So let's say the lake just wants to die. It wants to become a farm. It wants to become a wetland. It just wants to be out of there. So the way the lake stands right now, because of inputs from farms and such out in the Granby area off of Sheldon Creek, it's called hypereutrophic. It's just accelerating beyond what nature would actually do for that lake. And that's what's caused the problems. Let me refer to my cheat sheet for just a second here. Some studies have been done on the lake itself. You understand now what hypereutrophic is and why this lake is going like it is. The first indications there were some problems with the lake were back in the 50s. A lot of it was fish population, stunted fish and such, and a number of studies were done from 1950 to 1970, particularly looking at the fish populations in the lake. Fishing was the main recreation at the lake at the time, along with swimming and such. So restoration techniques were looking at how are we going to make the fishery better. That was the primary use of the lake. Once the 70s came around, started having problems with water milfoil, a submerged vegetation that took up about 25 to 50% of the lakeshore. That impacted boating and swimming particularly. If anybody remembers the lake who actually went down there, I worked there for a couple years. There was a large bed of milfoil to the left of the lake and a large bed to the right of the lake, which we always kind of enjoyed taking some of the women lifeguards and throwing them in there, watching them scream and stuff. Today we'd be thrown in jail as being bullies, but back then it was the height of beach etiquette to do that. So once this milfoil was identified, the city was undergoing several different ways to try and treat that. They did harvesting with mechanical harvesters. They used chemicals to treat the lake to try and kill it off. But again, being a hypereutrophic lake is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. As this went on through the 80s, off and on efforts went through to try and take care of the water milfoil problem. The latest effort now has been, because of the hypereutrophic activity of the lake, is blue-green algae. Now, blue-green algae, again, I learned it as blue-green algae. Now it's preferred to be called cyanobacteria. Apparently the blue-green lobby got their word across. They don't like to be called blue-green anymore. So if you hear me refer to cyanobacteria, the papers will still see blue-green algae on occasion. I think most of you remember back in about 2004, there were some deaths in the lake. A yellow lab was down there and apparently may have been poisoned by consuming some of the water, some of the scum that floated up with the algae in it, and several geese washed up. So the restoration efforts at that point shifted from originally for restoring the fishery to making swimming and boating more available to basically public health issues. Obviously, swimming has been banned in the lake since mid-90s, maybe early 90s. At the time, originally because of turbidity issues, the state health department requires a certain visibility in the water. I think you drop a disc in the water, and if they can see it at 4 feet, you're allowed to swim there. But because of turbidity issues with all the sediment coming in from across the lake, swimming was banned, and then with the health issues with blue-green algae, it's just become a much more severe detriment to the lake and a little more call for performing some restoration efforts. And as you see, last year, they finally began some dredging. There are a number of in-lake techniques you can do to try and restore it at this stage of its development. There's aeration. You can put alum in to try and filter out some of the phosphorus that's in the lake, which is really the limiting factor that drives a lot of this cyanobacteria growth. Dredging You could raise the lake if you wanted by putting an outlet dam on Tannery Creek. Of course, that would impact an awful lot of people on the lake shore negatively. I think some of you remember back in 1972 when Hurricane Agnes came through, the lake level was over the road at the base of the the softball field down there, which was probably closer to what the original lake level might have been before it was drained partially back in the 1800s to drain some of the swamps because they're concerned about malaria and other insect plagues, and additionally again in the early 70s, I believe. I'm not really sure what the reason was. If Percy Patrick was alive today, I think he could let us know about that. But now it's gotten to the point where, thankfully, some money has become available for both Fulton and Granby to be doing some dredging. Dredging itself may or may not alleviate the problem. So there are a couple theories on this. There's the whole hypereutrophic thing. I have a theory based on a personal experience myself. Back in about 1980 or 81, I was out on the lake quite a bit with friends of mine. That's where I learned to ski. We were out there with some friends who were girls, not girlfriends, and a couple cases of old Vienna splits. Now, we decided to do a little swimming in the lake, and my friend, who remained nameless at this point, decided at that point it would be fun to pretend he was Moby Dick, at which point he dropped his shorts, nothing underneath, and started kind of porpoising with this nice white posterior flashing occasionally. While I was in the water, suddenly his shorts floated up next to me. I thought, well, I think I can be kind of funny here. I'll just grab his shorts and dive down and stick them in the mud. Well, we were never able to find his shorts. He walked out of the lake with his T-shirt pulled on over his pants and drove off to his house to get a replacement pair of pants, apparently. But it was shortly thereafter that the lake started having problems, and I was wondering, did I plug a spring with my friend's shorts? So a couple years ago, I got my GPS unit out and figured, okay, I'll take my kayak and run on the lake and see if I can find these shorts. Nothing showed up, and when I told my son about it, he goes, "What are you using the GPS unit for, Dad?" Well, not being technologically savvy, I said, "Doesn't that stand for got plugged somewhere?" Well, never did find the problem, so I have to believe now that it's really a hypereutrophic system that's just looking to senesce itself. Anyways, finally Fulton and Granby, getting back on track, were able to secure some money through Patty Ritchie and grants and such to begin an actual dredging. What the dredging hopefully will do, number one, eliminate much of the sediment that's causing the turbidity, create a greater depth in the water, which will help reduce water temperatures, increase oxygen levels, which will be a little bit detrimental to blue-green algae growth, increase the visibility in the lake, which will allow swimming again, and create better habitat for the fisheries and that sort of thing. The main goal is to really establish a viable lake for recreation activities. For those of us who have been here a number of years, we all have very, very fond memories of that lake, correct? The goal of this whole dredging operation is to really restore the lake to its future, or its former glory. There's a lot of work to do yet. They were able to take out 20,000 cubic yards last year. This year, money has been available again to do the dredging. The city of Fulton will be doing their dredging the way they did last year, pumping it out through the geotubes, draining it, beginning around July 15th. And the town of Granby will be beginning about the same time out on their end of the lake, pumping it onto the shoreline, letting the water drain out of the sediments, and then recapturing the sediments as they want. I think we have an obligation as ourselves to kind of be able to bring this back. It would be nice, Fulton has had their tough times, obviously, over the years. It would be nice to have these amenities, the parks, the beaches, and things like that, ready and available if the economy does turn around here, if developers want to come in and take a look and see that there's a vibrant community with good schools, nice recreation opportunities, a lake that people are actually using and boating on and swimming in. I think we all have great memories there, and it would be nice to give people the opportunity to have those same memories. I'm sure my dad has great memories of rolling a hoop and stick down the street in Watertown. If I'd gotten that as a Christmas gift when I was a kid, I don't think I'd have any fond memories of that. But I'd like to let the kids today have that opportunity to have memories of swimming and fishing and playing around the lake as we did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim, and thanks for sharing, and thanks for your commitment, too. I really appreciate your investment. You are listening to On the Porch Radio Hour. We'll be back in a minute.
What's happening in Central New York is brought to us by iHeart Oswego. The 8th Annual Lavender Festival runs now through Sunday at Olfactory Lavender Farm in Red Creek. There will be food, crafts, music, demonstrations, and more. Visit nylavenderfestival.com for more information. The CNY Arts Center hosts a Writers Cafe the last Sunday of the month, with the next session July 26th at 6 p.m. The Arts Center is also currently offering adult painting classes and writing classes, and is hosting Artie Camp for children during July and August. Artie Camp offers a variety of classes in visual and performing arts to school-aged children. The CNY Arts Center Dessert Theater series continues on July 18th at 8 p.m. with master storyteller Matthew Wood and singer-songwriter Gina Holsopple. Visit cnyartscenter.com for more information. The Port City Co-op hosts an outdoor flea market at West Bridge and 2nd Streets in Oswego on the 1st and 3rd Sundays of each month from 12 to 5 p.m. Call 315-529-5177 for more information. The Oswego Players presentation of Guys and Dolls closes this weekend. Call 315-343-5138 for more information. Theater du Jour presents Bingo, the winning musical, at the Ice House in Mexico on August 20th and at the Oswego Tea Company on August 21st. Visit dujourcny.com for more information. Oswego County Farmers Markets happen just about every day of the week. In Central Square, visit Crossroads Park Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until dark. New Haven's Farmers Market is held at the Town Hall on Mondays from 4 until 7. Lacona's Farmers Market is at the corner of Maple Avenue and Harwood Drive on Thursdays from 4 until 7. Oswego's Farmers Market is also on Thursdays from 4:30 until 8:30 and is held on West 1st Street between Bridge and Oneida Streets. Pulaski hosts a market in South Park on Fridays from 4 until 8. The Canal View parking lot in Fulton is the home of the Fulton Farmers Market on Saturdays from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. And Parrish also hosts a market on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the corner of Route 69 and Route 69A. The Red Room sessions at the Wooden Apple Farmstead are a time for songwriters, musicians, and anyone else who wants to build their musical skill and knowledge to get together. We share songs we are working on, bounce musical ideas off each other, and we usually have time to just play a little music. This is a supportive environment where all levels of songwriting and musical experience are welcome. The next session is July 26th at 6 p.m.
So my 3 tree hugger friends are ready to go. I have Angie Kimbrell, who's a GRB grad of 2015, so this year. Next year she'll be going to Fredonia to study computer science. And Grace Trapasso, who's also a GRB grad this year. Next year is going to Ithaca for communications and environmental science. You'll be a double major, is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. And Abby Zitch, who's going into her senior year at GRB, and she's currently considering being a speech pathologist and going into speech therapy. So welcome to On the Porch. They have, you guys have been involved in a program. Can you tell us a little bit about your program before you get started?
Well, like you said, we're from G. Ray Bodley High School, and we participated in a dual enrollment course from SUNY ESF, or the School of Environmental Science and Forestry, called Global Environment. Global Environment is a course that teaches you about environmental issues all across the globe and the importance of conservation. And along with learning all of this valuable information, we participated in G. Ray Bodley's recycling program.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, carry on.
So why do we recycle, Abby?
To save the planet.
We have main reasons to recycle. One of the main reasons is to reduce raw material.
By reducing the raw materials we use, we reduce energy because less energy has to go into mining and other ways of extracting material from the earth.
which in turn saves money. And who does not like to save money? I mean, am I right?
Another reason to recycle is that plastics don't decompose, so essentially they just sit in a landfill. But if you recycle, that gives the chance to reuse them.
And it also saves space in the landfills that is meant for cardboards and papers, which do decompose.
The history of our program, we call it GRBing. It was started almost 30 years ago now by a student who realized all the bottles and all the paper was being put in the trash, so she decided that we could save the planet by recycling that, so she got cardboard boxes and put it in all the classrooms, and that's essentially how it got started.
Our current program fluctuates in population per year, but it averages around 30 students, and this year we saved about 6 metric tons of material, which is literally more than a ton of material that was saved than last year.
So this is the process of our recycling program. We just want to stress the fact that this is all student run, and our teacher, he does not help us at all. He just oversees it. So basically, we just do everything. And in these photos, as you can see, there's students from classrooms, not teachers, students who bring their recycling bins down to the bins for us to further recycle.
We then sort the material into plastics, cardboards, and paper. We weigh it all, and then we put it on a cart where it is distributed to the recycling company.
This is our finished product. We sort it into cardboard, paper, and redeemables, and we use the redeemables to purchase things for our school.
This is our statistics from this year. As you can see, we recycled about 4.5 tons of paper alone. And if you look at the total sheets of paper, we almost reached 1 million sheets of paper recycled.
The amount of oil that we saved by recycling is equivalent to filling up your car 70 times.
And these are some more statistics about our plastics and cardboard. And as we said, our total was 6 metric tons. And we saved about $350 for our district.
We saved $421 for redeemables, or in redeemables for our fountains. Our fountains are $1,100 each, and we have 2 right now, but we have a 3rd one being put in next year, so that's a total of $3,300 that we saved just in bottles and cans.
The one on the left is the older fountain, and it's saved over 80,000 plastic bottles, and the one on the right is newer, and it saved about 60,000 plastic bottles. And if you laid every bottle that we saved end to end, it's about 20 miles that it would reach.
And to give you just a landmark point of view, that would be from the Wendy's in Fulton to the Nice and Easy in Phoenix and back.
Although we have our main reasons to recycle, we also have underlying results that come of it.
One of the reasons is community. As high schoolers, we have to reach out. Sometimes we're not always taken as seriously because we're kids. So we decided to extend ourselves and create friendships with younger generations.
It puts a connection with the material that's being thrown away. By looking at the material that is recycled, you can see that not only is it happening, but we're the reason that it's happening. It makes a connection.
It creates responsibility for us because we are in charge of not only the program, but we're also in charge of recycling on our own, and it gives responsibility to pretty much anyone who recycles.
It puts a perspective, especially for our school, if we can see how much we recycle just as one small school. It makes us think how much could be recycled if everyone recycled the way we do.
It creates stewardship because we, as an older generation who knows how to recycle, can now teach the younger generations.
So like I kind of got ahead of myself there. I meant to say, as a community, we learned the importance of teamwork, but I guess you kind of already got that. But we encourage stewardship by reaching out to one of the local elementary schools in our community, Fairgrave Elementary, and taught their 6th grade class our GRBing process. And as you can see on the graph to the left, it starts at GRB and it passes down to the junior high and the 4 elementary schools in the district. Well, as great as that is not our goal. We plan on we want to teach our younger generations to recycle, so that way when they pass through the elementary system to the junior high system to the high school, they already have that in their mindset. Almost like a pyramid of environmental awesomeness, if you may.
So we reached out to the 6th grade class, and the first thing we did was we presented them with a questionnaire, just testing out their knowledge of recycling and its importance. Then we gave them a PowerPoint, and we just stressed the importance and the causes and effects of recycling. If you look at the pictures, the one in the middle is how much CO2 just our building saved in the year before, and we just stressed how much. And each tank is 500 cubic meters of CO2 being saved. So we just stressed how important it was to them.
To, I guess, further our enthusiasm for the environment, we shared that with the rest of Fairgrave Elementary. We went to their daily morning meeting called Morning Express to inform them of what we were doing in their school, which overall just boosts their enthusiasm. And we made our local paper, the Valley News, which informed the community of what we were doing.
This was our process at Fairgrave Elementary. As you can see, it is still completely student-run. They had different stations where some were assigned to sort through for cardboard or paper, some were assigned to weigh it, and some were assigned to bring it down to transport.
And then these are just the results of, I guess, our program. And we just got some opinions from some of the students. And this student said, "I had a lot of fun recycling. I enjoyed meeting and becoming friends with the high school students. I will forever recycle now." She learned the importance of community and teamwork.
Another student said, "I thought it was fun. It was a great idea to start it in this school. Thank you for this opportunity," which really gave them perspective, and they did realize that how great of an opportunity this was to help the environment and to really help care for the earth and the future generations.
This student said, "One of the things I liked, though, is that we helped every time we did it. Like, we would go down and get recycling bins and they would be full. It made me so happy to see that." This created responsibility because he knew that he was the reason that it was being filled, and he had that assurance, I guess, that he was creating that. Another quote was, "Recycling was really fun for me. I hope you guys are around for my 5-year-old sister to recycle." This created a sense of stewardship because he realized that we as older students were able to guide him in the recycling process. What he did not realize was that he's actually going to be the one to teach his 5-year-old sister how to recycle.
Another quote was, "I like that it was just fun and the anticipation of never knowing what you're gonna find. It's like the bottom of the box of cereal. It's always a surprise." And this really connected them to the material that was being thrown away and recycled. It really made them realize that although it was happening, it was happening because of them. It was their material.
Although we have the main reasons to recycle, we also have the underlying results. And although most people think of them as two separate things, we have to think of them as a whole.
The tangible reasons for recycling eventually give way to the equally important results of recycling to create an amazing process that is all around just good for the environment and for the community.
Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Do you have plans to go to the other elementary schools?
Abby, can you answer that?
We did plan at the end of the school year to go to the other elementary schools, but with finals and everything, we did run out of time. We do plan on incorporating it into the other elementary schools.
Well, Abby does.
Yeah, you
We'll
guys are going to be
support
gone.
from afar.
So that was part of my question too, is how, what the plan was for sustaining the program. So you're connecting with elementary schools in the area, and you're making really great connections with the high school students as well, and I think that's a big piece of the sustainability. But what else are you doing to ensure that the program's going to keep going?
Well, this originally started as Mr. Mainville's dream, and we just decided to take the dream and run with it. So we're hoping next year that somebody in the class next year will just take, I guess, what's left of his dream, what we started, and we'll continue it on. I mean, I already know people who plan on taking this class, and I'm like, listen, if you want a fun project, you should start a recycling program at another elementary school. Like, it's really easy to do, but the results of it is so rewarding, not just for the earth, but for us. Like, I felt like we were really giving back to the community, and as a former Fairgrave student, I mean, it just gave me that extra edge to want to help out.
That's great. Thank you. And oh yeah, we have one more question.
You mentioned you're going to have a third water count.
Yes.
And you said it was $1,100. Did you how are you paying for that?
Well, we got $421 this year, but from the former years, we've earned up enough money.
It's all completely paid for from the plastics that we recycle.
That's really great. We have another question in the back.
You said it was a global class for ESF, and I know 2 of you are going on to college, so you're going to carry on the project when you get to your colleges if they're not already in a recycling program?
Mr. Mainville actually told us that a lot of his former students started the recycling program in their dorm rooms because they were just throwing the paper away. So I hope if there isn't one at my school, I can continue that.
Lucky for me, I just got back from orientation at Ithaca, and I did see recycling bins in my dorm room, so I'm pretty excited about that. Any more questions? Yes.
That was included in our questionnaire. We asked, we actually gave the questionnaire twice. We gave it at the beginning of our program and at the end. And we did ask if they recycled at home and if they recycled at the end. And we really hope that they will continue to teach their families. And that was one of our goal, other than the main goal, which was to teach the class how to recycle. It was just to teach the families as well.
A really good plan for sustainability. Hey, thanks. And thanks for, you said your teacher's dream was to have this program, and I feel like it's not a dream anymore, that you guys are doing it. So thanks for being a part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moonlight is the only light you'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, stand by me. If the sky look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, stand by me. Stand by me, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, stand by me.
Quick side note, that was Maxwell's first public performance with his bass guitar. Yeah. Attaboy, Max Wood. So we have a former guest reappearing on the show today. Kelly Weaver is a member of the Friends of Fulton Parks, and she's here to give us some more information and an update on a project that they're doing with Hewlett Park, which is pretty exciting. So thanks for coming back onto the show, Kelly.
I have 3 words: rakes, ratchets, and shovels. So if you have one, bring it to Hewlett Park next Friday and Saturday, July 17th and 18th. We're building a playground, and you can be a part of it. So if you want some instant gratification, show up and have some fun. Thank you.
All right. A friend of On the Porch Radio Hour, Jim Forfaya, has come back and helped us organize this event tonight to help us get our guests. He was a big part of this program. It's really nice to have him back. And, in talking to him about the things that we're talking about on tonight's show and what's going on in Fulton, trying to get the community involved and to support local people, Jim offered to give us some more insight into how we can do that and become more involved with what's happening. So thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Matthew. It's been about a year, I think, when I sat down with Alex Grimshaw, a buddy from high school, G. Ray Bodley High School, and we talked about kind of where Fulton is going and maybe what it could use to sort of feel better about things, okay? And we just started throwing around some ideas, and we thought we would try to get some other people to see if they would be interested in just investing some good things happening in Fulton. So Alex's wife Colleen joined in, Colleen O'Brien showed up, Danielle Crisafulli, a teacher from the high school, Kelly Weaver. We had a couple of meetings, and we decided we liked this format. You can tell us after this program if you liked this format of just people coming, having 5, 10, maybe 12 minutes to talk about good things that are happening in Fulton for our community. And that was where this idea came. And it's really kind of cool sitting in the audience watching it coming together tonight to see people just sharing the good things that are happening in the community. So what I'm here to tell you about is that we need more help to do that. We would like to do one of these once a season, every 3 months. And we need people who have things that they're doing that they would be willing to come up in front of a mic and share or do a slideshow or such. And we need people to put the program together. So I'll be around after the show. Colleen Grimshaw's here. If you would like to volunteer to help put the next one together, that would be really great. You can also contact Matthew and Gina and the On the Porch folks, their information is over on the table there. So if you aren't sure how to get a hold of us, get a hold of them. They'll get a hold of us, and we'll pull you in for a planning meeting. So that, let's see, 3 months from now is, what, October? Does that sound right? Yep. So that would be the goal for the next one, would to do something like this again in October. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. August 12th, 1988 is the day that the movie Young Guns was originally put into movie theaters. There's a young man by the name of Marcel. He was 10, and Young Guns was probably not the most appropriate movie for a 10-year-old, but his grandmother loved those kinds of movies. She loved westerns and shoot-'em-up kind of movies, and she didn't like going to the movies alone. So she piled Marcel into the back of her car and took him to the movie theater to watch Young Guns. And as he was sitting 15 years later on the lake shore of Tonkahogen Lake, he was watching some young teenagers run around the edge of the lake, and they were playing tag and snapping each other with their towels and having a good time. And he was remembering the movie because there's this scene in Young Guns where the Native American member of the crew goes and he finds peyote, and he mixes this really strong peyote tea, and they all drink it so they can go into the spirit world and get guidance. And as they're all walking on the edge of this canyon, they're all feeling the effects of the peyote and really enjoying it. Some of them are really enjoying it, some of them are not. But they're having hallucinations, and they're following large chickens, and they're reciting poetry and picking flowers and doing all sorts of crazy things. And there was a couple of young men in this group that was running around the edge of the lake that reminded Marcel of that scene in Young Guns, picking flowers, reciting poetry to nobody that was really there. One young man that was just circling trees and complaining about oars that had gone missing from his boat that were actually still clearly still attached to his boat. So he wasn't sure. Marcel wasn't exactly sure what was going on. But he just sat. He just sat and watched, and he was supposed to leave hours ago, but he just sat and watched as these teenagers ran around the lake and up and down the dock and snapping each other with towels and taking breaks to sit on the lake shore and have a snack or take a drink. Sometimes they'd disappear into the woods on the edge, and then they'd come running back out. And at one point, they all disappeared into the woods except for one young lady who was just walking along the shore, picking up rocks and examining them, and then tossing them into the lake. And that reminded him of the story that you always hear about the two kids walking along the shore of the ocean and throwing in starfish, and an old man showing up and saying, "You can't possibly save all these starfish." And one of the kids says, "Well, I can save this one," and throws the starfish back into the ocean. And Marcel started laughing to himself, and he was thinking, "Good for you, young lady. Thanks for saving those rocks." And then that triggered a whole other thought. And as he was daydreaming and thinking about saving rocks and throwing them into the lake and wondering exactly what she was doing, two young men come running back out of the woods, and they go running by. One of them picks up the other one's duffel bag and dumps it out all over the lake shore, and goes running and laughing and just leaving this other guy's stuff all over. And so he disappears with the duffel bag, but leaving all of the stuff on the lake shore. But he had left his own bag sitting on his towel next to a tree. So that young man walked over and thought it'd be really funny because he had heard everybody talking about going swimming, and they were all putting on their bathing suits. And he took that guy's bathing suit and he waded out into the lake, and he kind of started shifting around. And what he was doing was he was digging a hole with his feet in the mud, and he took that young man's trunks and buried them in the mud in the bottom of the lake. Nobody really knowing that years from then that young man would be telling that story to a group of people and wondering exactly what effects that may have had on the lake or the young man and his trunks. But it was 3 days later that Marcel was in the local Walmart, and he saw the young man whose trunks went missing and buying a new pair of trunks. And he followed him and walked behind him in line, and he bought a candy bar. He picked out a candy bar just so he could watch and see this young man and see, just what he was doing. He was fascinated by this group. And the young man paid in the exact amount in cash. He counted out all of the change. And Marcel wasn't sure, but for some reason that made him feel really connected to this guy. His trunks had gone missing. He's missing his swimming trunks in the bottom of the lake, buried in the mud. Marcel didn't have any idea what this guy's history was. He didn't know where he was from, didn't know his name. But he was fascinated that this young man, maybe he had a job, maybe he didn't. But where did he get that money? And why was it so important to him that he stood there for 2 extra minutes to count out all this change so that he could pay an exact amount? What is it that drives people to do those things? What was it that drove his grandma to take him to see Young Guns when he was 10 years old? Or to rent Rambo when he was 11? And he wishes that his grandmother was still around. He was wishing that he could ask those questions. So as he walked slowly out of Walmart, out into the parking lot, the young man was getting onto his bicycle. Marcel ran over, and he said, "I've seen you twice now in the last 3 days. And you don't know who I am, and I don't know who you are. But I want to change that. And if you could do one thing, if you could tell me one thing about yourself, what would it be?" The young man looked him in the eye and he said, "Go back to where you saw me at the lake tonight. And if it's that important to you, then I'll let you learn one thing about me." So, Marcel went home, grabbed a sweatshirt, made a sandwich, and found his way back down to the lake, very cautiously. But he sat in the same exact spot that he sat 3 days prior. That young man came out. He came out of the woods wearing his brand new swim trunks, with one of those sticks with the claws on the end and the trigger on the other end so that when you squeeze it, the claw opens and closes. And he walked out into the lake and he started digging around with the claw. And he pulled out his old trunks. And he walked over to Marcel and he wrung them out, shook the mud out, pulled the stones out of the pockets, and handed the swim trunks to Marcel. He said, "These were my older brother's trunks. And I saved them. I saved them because it was just a few years ago that he drowned in the bottom of the lake. And I was going to leave those trunks there because it was kind of like we were giving them back. But I couldn't let them stay. But I've got these. And my brother always paid in cash. And he hated change. So whenever I buy stuff, I buy it in cash. And I pay an exact amount of money. Because I don't want to carry change. Because that's a lot of stuff. And I don't like carrying a lot of stuff. So Marcel took the swim trunks, took them home, washed him out in the bathtub, and hung him out on a tree limb outside his house. Kind of like a flag. He had a clothesline, but it was behind the house. Nobody could see the clothes behind the house when they hung on the line. And for some reason, he wanted people to see the trunks, even though he wasn't going to tell anybody what they were for. That was another thing his grandma did. She always created stories without ever saying a word. That was a couple years ago. So whenever you drive down the road and you pass Marcel's house, in the wind, you can see the waistband of an old pair of trunks that have completely fallen apart, but are still hanging from that branch. And like so many other things in Tonkahogen, the stories are always remembered. But the things that create the stories sometimes disappear. Just like the reasons why his grandma might have taken him to all those crazy movies. Or why you always eat the same things for dinner on Sunday. It's just something you do. But the next time you go down Roundhog Lane and you pass Marcel's house, go slow. And watch for that waistband and the string that's still in the waistband but ties it to the branch. And roll down your window and listen to the wind whistle through that waistband. And pay real close attention because you can hear the town song. This is my home. This is my only home. This is the only sacred ground that I have ever known. Should I stray in the dark night alone, rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. Rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. I want to thank everybody for staying here for the whole show. You've made it through another episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. I want to thank everybody for being here. This really is an awesome crowd, and I'm so glad that you're part of our community and that our community is doing the great things that they're doing. So I want to thank all of our guests, and I want to thank everybody that came to see the show. I want to thank everybody for being on Concert Window. I want to thank everybody that's listening to the podcast. I want to thank a gentleman that was on our show before, Bob Green, because he's a big part of the environmental work around here too. And he wants to make sure that nobody is littering. And Bob's been around for a while, and he's seen the effects of a lot of things. So if I'm going to listen to somebody about making sure that my stuff makes it into the right place, it's going to be Bob Green. So thanks for coming to listen to the show. Thanks for bringing your stuff too, Bob. Check out Bob's stuff on your way out. Yeah. So coming to shows like this means that you're involved, and we're really glad that you're involved. And having guests like the guests that we had today really gives me hope that a lot of people are excited and invested in their community and invested in this town, and that they're involved. And so if there are other people that are doing things that you're excited about, or if you know about things that are people, or know things about people and what they're doing, we want to know about them, because this show is all built around supporting our community and making sure that people know about the awesome things that are happening. So get a hold of us and let us know what's up, so we can have them as a guest on our show. Or if you want to be a guest on the show and talk about the awesome things that you're doing or things that you're involved with, bring people along. Let them know that there's a show out there that really cares about what's happening in our county and in the surrounding areas and in towns like Fulton. Because we want to see those signs being hung back up that say City with a Future. But until next time, peace to your journey. Thanks for being part of the Porch.
On the Porch is a production of the Wood and Apple Farmstead, with host and writer Matthew Wood. Our musical director is Gina Holzapfel. Our sound technician is Maxwell Wood. Our stage manager is Ray Monet. Special guests include Tim Carroll, Colleen O'Brien, Abby Zitch, Grace Trapasso, Angelina Kimbrell, and Jim Farfaya, as well as musical guests Gina Holzapfel and Maxwell Wood. Find information about past shows, being on the porch, and much more online at ontheporch.weebly.com.